Now I would like to invite His Excellency Ambassador of Poland to Canada, Mr. Marcin Bosacki, to share his view on the importance of this very day.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Eli Rubinstein, for hosting all of us in the congregation Habanim. It's a great pleasure to meet so many people speaking different languages. I was encouraged to speak in Yiddish, and Polish, but I will stay with English. Thank you for all co-organizers of tonight's event. Also for Consul General Morawski and his team. Thank you very much for all what you are doing here in Toronto, including extensive dialogue and cooperation with Jewish community here in this great city. We are here tonight to commemorate the opening of the first museum commemorating Poles who saved the Jews during World War II. And before I say a couple of words about why so late this museum was created, I'm gonna tell you a little bit more. Most of you already saw the exhibition, I think. A little bit more about the Ulma family and Markowa community. Before World War II, Markowa was the largest village in Poland. Not a small town, but a big village. More than 4,500 people, including about 180, 200 Jews, 30 plus families. It was a very progressive community. It was well developed. It formed a local elite, farmers open to the world, utilizing modern farming techniques, very much active in social life, but also very deeply rooted in Polish Catholic faith and tradition. It was in this climate in which Wiktoria and Józef Ulma were married in 1935. When German Reich decided to push for final solution to the Jewish question, in 1942, majority of Markowa Jews were murdered. A few months later, those who were hidden in the village also were found and murdered by German military police, about 25 to 30 of them. In spite of that, 9 Polish families still continued to hide Jews. The Ulmas were among them. 72 years ago, in March 44, they were betrayed. German gendarmes murdered Józef and Wiktoria Ulma along with their 6 children and 2 families they were sheltering, the Schall and Goldman families. In 1995, Yad Vashem bestowed the Ulma family title of Righteous Among the Nations, and in 2003, Catholic Church started their beatification process. The Ulmas were among thousands, tens of thousands of Poles who were helping Jews during World War II. 1/4 of Yad Vashem trees is dedicated to the Poles. 6,620 of them as of today. Poland was the only country in Europe where, as was mentioned before, any help or even attempt to help to the Jews was immediately punished by the Germans with death sentence and shooting, actually without any court, but just shooting. It was also one of the goals of Polish underground resistance and underground state to help the Jews. Of course, despite those efforts, 90% of Polish Jews perished during World War II. About 3 million of them. Now let me come to the question, why do we open this kind of museum for the first time only 71 years after World War II? In my opinion, the answer is complicated, but a vast part of it is that Poland was ruled by communists for 45 years. And communists tend to petrify artificial images of many things, including Jews, Holocaust, Polish-Jewish relations. It was artificial and it was wrong. It was presented mostly as a folklore. Even Auschwitz was presented as a place where not of the Shoah, the Holocaust. I was taught that was mostly place where Poles were killed, and maybe some Jews as well. Only after '89, only after Poland regained independence, the real dialogue, research, and discussion about Holocaust and the history of 1,000 years of Jews living in Poland has really started. It was sometimes painful discussion because it was not always rosy, but including some of the chapters of World War II relations. But it was really frank and open and sincere at last discussion. And only really in the last 10-15 years, a lot of effort to establish real modern museum of Auschwitz-Birkenau was put in place. Just a year and a half, the Museum of the History of Polish Jews was open in downtown Warsaw. It's a great museum, and please, I encourage everybody who will visit Poland, and I know many of you do, to visit this museum, because that shows the 1,000 years of Polish Jewish, not only cooperation on the same land, but brotherhood and sisterhood and complexity of those relations, but also how those two communities really flourished on the same land in the time when in other European countries, as early as the Middle Ages, Jews were prosecuted. The museum which I'm mentioning, so the Museum of Polish Jews, name is Polin, and Pauline, as many of you know, in Yiddish means a place where you can rest. That was the name for Poland in Yiddish. And I think this is significant and this is remembered in Poland today. But of course we are celebrating opening of the Markowa Museum today. And let me finish by the quote of somebody who is probably the best historian of what happened in Markowa, and for sure of the Ulma family, the grandson of one of the sisters of the victims, historian Mateusz Szpitma, whom I had a privilege to host 2 years in a row in Canada, 2 years ago in Ottawa and a year ago in Montreal. And he said in Montreal, Samaritans of Markowa, the Ulma family, Poles murdered by the Nazis for helping Jews, is a story of people who wanted to live, who wanted to protect others, and did so regardless of danger, but also of those who lost their humanity denouncing others. The attitude of the Ulma family shows that courage and respect for other people are within our grasp. Thank you very much.